your Magic turned some heads Thursday night when everyone had all the reports wrong when they selected Paolo Banchero with the first pick in this year's draft.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give the stage to you. You got it, my man.
So, you're like us. We really don't watch college ball until it's time to know about the prospects because of the NBA. We just don't watch college. So, we don't learn much about these players until, around finals time, until the combines start going on, until it's like really close. You see who's going to have the first, like 3 picks, 5 picks, whatever. And then you start really looking at the prospects. That's what a lot of people do, not everybody. So, a lot of these guys had opinions of these players uh, for the whole season or a few seasons. They watch them as young as you can watch them. So um, the hype was always around Jabari and Chet for the most part, and then a few people talking about Paolo, here and there. But then the odds started shooting up at the end, especially in I guess the betting odds, specifically at like booking agencies and things that take bets. Like the odds on Paolo started shooting up the day or two before, and he just seemed to come out of nowhere for people that didn't know or that don't keep up with the prospects. So, actually, real quick, what I'd like to do is based on your reaction, without seeing anything, you just assumed, like some of the media and some of the fans, that the Magic made the wrong choice, or you were just surprised by the curveball because all the rumors were saying Jabari, right? And some were saying Chet, but very few, if none, were saying Paolo. Okay, you didn't even have a workout with them.
I was
What was your
I
hold
was
on, hold on, hold on. What was your reaction compared to before you knew anything about him or saw him play, and how you were clowning the Magic, even though you like to see us succeed, but then it's more fun for you when we fuck up. So, based on your reaction before you saw him to compare to after you saw the tape I sent you, how wrong were you? And how do you see the pick now that you've actually seen like a 10-minute clip of the guy?
it's like a 13-minute clip. No, I was absolutely wrong, and I was shocked, um, as was everyone, because I had saw where Apollo didn't grant them a workout, things of that nature. Like from what I heard, he didn't even want to talk to him. Like that's just what I heard. So like my mouth was on the floor when they announced him as the first pick. Now I did see those odds that you spoke of. Now I did think it was weird, but I was like, okay, because my message for the last month about this has been consistent. I would go with the most NBA ready player. I only
Yep.
watched Chet. I only watched Jabari. Between those two, Jabari was the most NBA player ready. NBA ready player. That's who I would go with. I never paid attention to Apollo. Now, my brother-in-law did tell me a couple of months ago at my son's graduation. He was like, "The Magic need to trade Apollo," and I was like, "Sure." I just blew him off. He was right.
Mhm.
He was right. I watched video clips of the kid yesterday that you sent to me, and I was floored. Not so much by his mid-range shot, but I was floored by his footwork. I was floored by his back-to-the-back game, and also his spin move, which was absolutely beautiful. I also love the fact that one, they don't know how tall he is. He could be 6'10", he could be 6'11". He has a quick drop step, and he's 250.
An
I'm a
agile 250 though, he doesn't look
yes,
heavy. It looks
yes.
like fitting on him.
Yes, I'm an old school guy. That's the type of player I like. Any player who can play back to the basket in today's game, any player who has a mid-range jumper in today's game, I'm a fan of. So my fault, my bad, Magic Nation. I can admit when I'm wrong. Um, I would have absolutely picked him had I known more
Hmm.
about him. I am happy with the pick for you guys. I'm still a bit confused because I'm like, okay, he can play three, four. He could play 4 and 5 definitely. He could probably play a little three. So I still don't know where he's gonna fit with the current makeup of your team. But that was a pick you had to take. You can't miss it. I think what happened was, and not to be too long winded here, This was a sneak attack, but it was a good sneak attack because his agent is actually Orlando Magic great Mike Miller. So I think
Mm,
it was some back end communications that no one else knew about via Mike Miller to get this done. And kudos to him because the Magic are already tight lipped, don't get me wrong, but no one knew this was gonna happen.
mm.
So kudos to Mike Miller because there were some back end conversations being had that no one knew about. So yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because I was just I told you before the draft I was more interested in just how the Magic come into the season after this finally healthy with
Mm,
who we think we're actually gonna have next year. I know Suggs had a surgery, but and he's gonna miss summer league, but they're saying he should be ready to go for the season. And if
yeah.
not, we're kind of already deep, and he's a second year young guy. He'll be back fairly quickly. So I I was less worried about who we were going to draft. I just knew at number one, you have to make sure it's a plus to your team. Like you can't miss so badly that it's a bust. But
Hmm.
I was less worried about like the next generational talent compared to like I think we can already start trending towards winning more now without anything new. Just continuity and the team being healthy. So everything was going to be a plus. I just didn't want to bust, and I just didn't know anything about the Paolo kid. And I didn't know I needed to know anything yet. So when I watched it, um, I was like, for all the reasons really that you thought we should pick Jabari, were just helping us now. Like he has an NBA ready game with a high ceiling, compared to Chet, who's more of a project, with possibly a high ceiling as well if he stays healthy and things. You just thought the right pick was Jabari, but I knew as soon as I started watching like the Paolo clips, I was like, I I think Cameron's going to change his mind just based on like what I know that how you look at some players and things. So as soon as I sent it to you, when you finally texted me back, you're like, okay, I was wrong. I was like, that's the reaction. That's the reaction I wanted because that's how I felt. I was like,
Yeah.
as soon as I watched it, I was like, they're fine. This is I'd like this pick. And he arguably is the most talented now and has just as high of a ceiling and possibly could be the healthiest of them all just because he already has the NBA body. Jabari,
Yeah.
I think, will be fine, but he's still skinny at 6'10". He's still pretty skinny. But yeah, I was really happy with it. I think honestly, they could have picked any of those three guys, and I don't think I would have been super disappointed. But after seeing more of him, I'm happy with this pick. I'm very happy with it. So no complaints here. I'm ready for summer league and for the season to start.
Oh yeah, summer league is going to be great, and I'm definitely going to be paying attention to it. Um, I do want to say one thing because we're going to jump into our next topic here. We're still going to talk about Chet and Jabari. There was a campaign by Chet's camp not to be drafted by Orlando, and I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
necessarily agree with that. But like me and you talked offline, I believe he probably wanted to be closer to home since he's from the Midwest. But anytime you have a chance to potentially be the first pick, I think you need to go for it. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But good riddance because I've been wrong a few times, but I'm just going to say this. I don't think that Chet's going to be the player that people think he's going to be. Um, Now, Jabari in Houston, Houston was a fun team to watch last year. They didn't have a lot of wins, but with that backcourt of Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., now you're adding Jabari. They have a young big three.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was their developmental year. I think this year they have another developmental year, getting Jabari incorporated into the team. He is a second generation NBA player. His dad played for Houston briefly in the 80s. Um, I believe him going to Houston will be more impactful than Chet actually going to OKC. I also like what OKC is doing, but I think Houston has more athletic guys, more, what's the word, splashy guys. OKC has the fundamentals down, but Houston's going to have those young dogs. So I'm gonna watch a lot of both of those teams. But you couldn't go wrong with the top three. You couldn't go wrong with it. And I think each player went to where they fit the best. Chet never fit in Orlando to me. He fits in OKC. I think Jabari could have fit in Orlando and actually Houston. So I'm happy that he fell to Houston. So this draft looks like, just on surface level, it looks like fundamentals are slowly coming back into the game. And I mentioned this to you in text message. There are a few of these players who are sons of WNBA players. And one thing about the WNBA players are they're actually more fundamentally sound than NBA players. So I think seeing that some of these sons are now getting into the league from some of these women, they're going to have their fundamentals down. Because no sexist remarks. The women aren't as powerful, they aren't as athletic as NBA players, so they have to rely on fundamental basketball and actually better shooting than NBA players. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage for their sons coming into the league. Even Paolo, his mom played in WNBA. So there's some like you should have saw
Mhm.
the huge smile on my face when I saw those highlights. I don't give a fuck about defense right now. He's a rookie, but just seeing his poise on the floor just gave me a
Mhm.
huge smile. I was like, oh my.
You can give him the ball and he can get you a bucket.
Yes.
And with
Yes.
with his size and footwork and his mid range game, you can if he's on the court and he keeps his poise as who he is as a player, like coming from Duke and stuff. I believe that he can do that. Like he's not shying away from his talent or what he could be. He's embracing
Mm-hmm.
it. If you have a guy like that, you can dump the ball to him. You're like, get me a bucket. And every team really needs something like that. And I'm not saying that we don't have guys on our team that could like potentially prove that they could consistently do that all the time. But to have more options and to have a guy like this come in as a rookie at like 19 or however young he is, I'm really excited about it. It adds a part to our team that we need, that every team could use. So yeah.
Look, here's another thing that kind of piqued my interest for a split second. Okay, before the draft, they started releasing the players in their suits and stuff like that. Generally, and I don't know if this is coincidence or what, but generally speaking, the flashiest suit is always worn by the first pick. Just generally speaking, right? So when I saw Apollo's purple suit, I was like, hmm. For a brief moment, I was like, he has the flashiest suit. But I still didn't think the Magic was going to pick him number one. I was just like, okay, this kid's probably going to go third, but he has the flashiest suit. This is weird, right?
Hmm.
But because I had no idea. I had no inkling, no anything. Thought he was never even considered to be number one. And then the Magic pulled this
Hmm.
curveball, but a good curveball.